You're live. Hello, TCI family. Jonathan's Refuge, our church there in Marysville. All the men, we love you guys so much. All of our faithful followers and friends. Look, gaze upon the beauty that I am. No, not me. Her. The first lady's here with me tonight. I'm really excited about the chance to interview her. I'm going to be interviewing her. So, as you guys know, we kind of jump right into it and don't dally. So, let's jump right into it. We're going to be talking tonight. Next week, I'm interviewing the first lady tonight. Next week, we're going to be interviewing one of the men at the refuge and a friend of mine, Big Mike, we call him. And he's going to be coming and talking about when you have bad charges and you've done your time and you get out and you want to change your life and be a good person, but you also got to survive, get jobs and find places to live. And no one wants to help you because you what you did in your past. So we're going to talk about that, and we're going to see from his perspective how he overcame fear and how he has gone from just a complete transformation. And it'll be hopefully a really fun 20-minute interview. I know I'm excited about it. So the first lady, she's here. I am going to start off with a scripture real quick. We were discussing kind of earlier, but as a young man, I went through a lot of stuff where I was very fearful. And Isaiah 41:13 always was something that as a kid, even as an adult, I actually saw some videos of me walking. There was a footage, we were out hiking, and I was watching, and I made a notice that my hand looked like I was holding someone's hand. As I was walking, it looked like I was fiercely holding a hand. And it reminded me of this scripture, which is Isaiah 41:13. It says, "For I am the Lord your God, who holds your right hand and says to you, do not fear, I will help you." And as a little boy, I always, when I would go, my dad would tell me to go to the chicken pen one time at this big 100 acres we had in Northern California, in the mountains. There's tigers, not tigers, lions, mountain lions, and bears. And I would walk with holding God's hand because God said he'd be with me. And as a little kid, I just felt as long as I can hold God's hand, I didn't realize he was in me. And so that as I walk, God is walking with me. And so it was really interesting. In this scripture, I want you to hear that. So understand that God is walking with you, whatever you're going through, be it you're a victim or you're the victimizer or you're a person going through hell or you're in heaven. It doesn't matter what place you are in this world right now. Hopefully today we can learn and know that God is always walking with us so that we don't need to walk in fear. Miss Cynthia, if I may start a small scripture. So 2 weeks from now, we're going to be talking about the actual scripture of Psalms 23, the Lord is my shepherd. And today I'm going to be using the fourth verse out of that. So Psalms 23:4, this is going to be how I'm going to ask the first lady some questions. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil. For you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Now that's David. And he's telling us, even though it was sorry about that, guys. Even though it was the worst experience of his life at the time, he felt like God had abandoned him, but then he realized he didn't. And so he wrote this beautiful verse. And it talks about, I shall fear no evil. We're going to ask some very pungent questions, and forgive me, we're not going to spend too much time on them. We only got 20 minutes. But my wife, Cynthia here, has had a unique life. I won't go over it all, but in her teenage years, she came to whatever you'd want to call it, a wall between her and her mom where someone needed to leave. So how old were you and when you went out on your own?
I left at 16, the week I turned 16. I had ran away multiple times from home because my mother and I did not get along and never get along. So it was time to go. And after I ran away, my grandpa found me, the grandpa who was the most supportive and there for me day one, said, let me send you to your auntie's house. So I went to my aunt's, and then only living with her for, I think, 9 months. Then she decided to move to Alaska. So now I'm again on my own and trying to figure life out.
And that was in your 17 still?
Yep, 17.
And then you ended up getting married. How old were you then?
I was 18, but I only got married for a couple years.
Had a stepson.
Yep.
Then you got divorced. And you married again. And then you had two amazing sons. I know them because they're amazing. They're actually bishops in the church, John and Andrew Sarti. But you went through a tumultuous marriage and ended up out again being a single mom.
That's because I married an alcoholic and I didn't know he was an alcoholic. Because you don't know when you're 21, 20, I met the guy I didn't know. And yeah, it's a hard life when you choose a person who's an alcoholic and then he was doing drugs as well, cocaine and stuff like that. But you when you figure that out, you're like, oh, I'm already married. Now what? And you don't intend to get married to jump out of it. So I just did the best I could. But yep. And then I ended up after realizing that he was never going to change. And to this day, still, years later, he's exactly the same man. So it was never a mistake. But yep, I am a very independent person. The mother that had me at 16 is a very strong woman, but at the age of 23 for me, I realized that she was very severely mentally challenged with anxiety and all the stuff that she'd been through as a child and didn't have the right tools to raise me properly. And not only was I affected, but my sisters were affected, and we just didn't get along. We just did not get along. And I always felt like she hated me. And
you told me about a time that you got a text when it was your 50th birthday.
49th birthday. Yep.
Could you tell them about that?
I turned 49. I was hanging out with my niece, just hanging out, and I got a text message that I thought was going to be, hey, happy birthday, daughter. And it was, I've always hated you. And, I don't know how to get over that you're my mistake. And I was glad, to be honest with you, that I had got that she had admitted that I was, in her mind, a mistake, because I felt that. You feel people's dislike. You can feel it. As a child, I felt like I was that child that was told to be quiet. I wasn't allowed to be emotional, show my emotions. I wasn't allowed to exist. So I tried to be very quiet. But unfortunately, children have emotions and feelings, and I didn't do so good at hiding those. So she didn't like me very much.
So with everything that you've taught, and then you had another marriage, your third one, 20 years or so, had its ups and downs.
Couple stepchildren, because
couple stepchildren.
I'm the person that I see people and their pain, and I saw two young men and some struggles, and my boys connected with them, and yeah, before we knew it, I had another family. Yeah, it just happens that way for me.
Then we, of course, met. I had a wife of 19 years, and we went through a horrific divorce, and then it was 5 years or so till I met Cece, I believe.
Yep.
2017.
March.
Yeah, so 5 years.
2020.
We both spent about 5 or 6 years single, and then we got married. And what I wanted to kind of ask is, how do you get over all the fear? That's a lot of fear. I mean, you had to have been in fear in every one of those situations. I don't know how you couldn't. I mean, I know you're a tough, as my grandmother would say, she's a tough broad. And that's a high compliment from my grandma. She's one of the toughest ladies I know. When the RV has a problem, she tells me to sit down and watch TV. I got this. I'm like, okay. There's a problem with the truck. I'm like, hey, I need the mechanic over here now. It's all. She's like, you just need to reach in, switch this, do that. And I'm like, could you make sure you don't do that in front of guys? So she's very tough and knows how to do a lot. I mean, she is not just the first lady of our organization, of our church, but my wife. But she's also the CEO of a multi-million-dollar nonprofit and works with some of the saddest stories you ever hear on a daily basis. So how do you do it? How do you overcome fear? I mean, I am not trying to push you to make you be able to do something, but we do 20-minute messages. Can you give someone something that, I mean, there's people watching that are in pain and suffering. And in the next 5 minutes, what could you tell them to how you overcame your fears so that you could stand up and say, I am worthy of being loved, or I am worthy of a job, or I am worthy of this, even though my whole life has just been like this. I had these huge obstacles, as we all do. So how's your secret? What is it?
You know, and at the top of my head, even I could walk in fear being in relationship with you because of all your health issues. I mean, I have that where when I first met him and I first started hearing about the health issues, I honestly was like, oh, we got to get married quick, you know, so I could like help. But what comes with fear is anxiety, icky feelings, and I don't like it. I just don't like it. So as a young woman, I had to ask myself, when I recognized and knew that my mother didn't like me, why? You know, why am I here? Why am I here? What's the purpose? You know, and many times as I grew up and I went to church, I was catechism and Sunday church every day, Catholic church. You know, as I heard this, and I'm going to read it. It's the call of Jeremiah 1. This is the NIV version. The word of the Lord came to me saying, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I appoint you as a prophet to the millions. There's many versions of that. But what that tells me is that God has a purpose for me. And that man and that woman had to come together so I could be here. And that I have a purpose. It doesn't matter what my past looks like. It doesn't matter what my mom didn't do. It doesn't matter. God gave me a purpose and I need to focus on that. And so how do I do that? It just, especially when you know that there's anxiety and sickness in your family, mental health sickness, you continuously have a strong mindset. That's not going to get on me. That anxiety is not going to get on me. I'm not going to be like that. I watch people be fearful. I'm actually very, very proud to say that in an emergency situation, I'm one of those emergency responders. I don't freak out. I'd be like, oh, my arms hurt, tie it up, and then be on to help the next person. Because again, that message that I receive over and over throughout my whole life, that God created me for his purposes, reminds me of that. Okay, God, so don't know what I'm doing right now. Don't know where I'm at. Not going to walk in fear because you stand before me. And as long as my eyes are on you, I'm good. So that's my story. There's no reason to walk in fear. And to even think about the future, that can sometimes cause anxiety. Prepare for it. Absolutely. Do everything you can. Plan. Know what the future looks like. Have money, have a job, stuff like that. But don't be fearful. Because again, the past comes with feelings, icky feelings sometimes of remembering what those feelings were. Of course, remember the good stuff, the memories, the nice memories. But if your past comes with ickiness, put it in the past. Forgive the people. Let them go. I forgive my mom. Right now, my prayer is that my mother can forgive herself. That's what I pray for. I don't worry about anything when it comes to me anymore. I'm strong. I now look at my mom and say, thank you for those things that you taught me, because I am independent and strong because of her. She was a great, great mother. She just didn't know how to communicate properly. And that's why we do our job now. So we can take care of people and communicate properly and let them know that mental health is real.
But it can't be used as an excuse.
Exactly.
That's the difference.
Yes.
Because Miss Cece, she, as the CEO of a nonprofit, this is a nonprofit that we run that is got a BHA, which is your Behavioral Health Administration license. That's what you have to be able to have licensed therapists give therapy. Group SUDS, for substance abuse, where we can bring in 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 people and have a therapist in there working with them. people that are homeless, people that are on addiction, people that are coming out of rehabs, people coming out of prisons. She works with all of this. Okay. We work with all these folks.
Disabilities.
And we talk about, you got to plan for stuff. Yep. You're dyslexic. You got to try to account for these things. You need to work that into your life. But none of us allow them to use them as an excuse. And I think that's one of the things that I personally have learned about Cynthia in her life is that she could have sat and been a victim we got 20 minutes. So I only hit like 3 parts of her life. Just, the marriage, any issues, the mom. Those are some tough things when you think of that. Any one of us could sit there and go, oh, rest of my life, I'm a victim. It's not my fault. I had a mom and this happened. And, that's life. Oh, alcoholics and drug addict husbands. And it's not I had the same thing. I had a wife. I could have, you guys don't understand. I used to have to lock the bedroom door with the kids and me in it because there was chairs flying at us, let her pass out on the floor. And then we could finally drag her to bed and then we can get sleep. I could be a victim. That's one of the things I respect about Miss Cece is she doesn't stand as a victim.
We have to use the things that have happened to us as tools to help others. There was a day where I was in a church and as I've always been asking God, what is my purpose? He said to me, see all those, they just announced that the teenagers youth group, they needed leaders. And I was like, well, I don't know what to do. And they literally just said, show up. So I showed up. And every day since then, I've been showing up for people because I realized that that's what I needed to do was show up. So time is love. It literally is. So when you show up for people and you don't even say anything, you're just smiling and guiding them and hugging them or praying for them. The next thing you know, they're asking things of you and about your story. And that's when you get to tell your story and say, yeah, I'm not broken.
We do it all the time. Tomorrow night, you guys are welcome. Anyone that wants to come that are local every month of the last Friday. So tomorrow night at our headquarters, we do a barbecue. And employees and our team members come, people that are on our therapy staff, therapists come, board members come, people that are active, and then people that are wanting to see what we're doing come and meet the people and get a chance to socialize. And their time is love. I love that. That's a great. We should do a campaign. New idea. We got a campaign. Ty, put that together, okay? Time is love. I love that. Get that coined before it gets out there, by the way. If any of you people watch and try to patent that or copyright it, I'm coming after you. No love there.
And it just takes time. Just takes time. As we know with TJ, you push a little bit. I love you. You push a little bit. I love you. Cameron, same thing. Hey, you can do it. You can do it.
We have people in our organization that so much walk in fear. Like, I could catch a cold. Oh, okay. But I could die. Then it's like, let me pull out my list. And they pull up their, 3 pages of health. I unravel a 5,200 some odd page file, of which I just had another stroke just during Christmas, which none of you heard me going, oh man, it's so tough. Oh God, I knew I had something wrong. I knew that's what. Look, there's people that are so scared they don't even leave their room. And it's tough. And so we have to show up in their lives and just show up and be part of their life to get them to see that we love them. Once they realize we love them, and I use TJ as one of those guys that realizes it, once he saw it in action, because he needed to see action, and he saw action in us. And once he saw that love, the fear disappeared. So I would add that you can overcome fear through love. And one of the scriptures we're going to talk about next week has this topic in it when I talk about Big Mike, and that's fear can't exist with pure love. True love, the scripture says, fear can't exist in it. If it's real love, pure love, there is no fear in between it. If there is a fact that I fear, if you say I fear this person in my relationship, then there's not pure love. And that's where we have to work to get the scripture talks about this pure love, where no matter what's going on, you don't have any fear. I don't have a fear. I wonder if my wife's going to be home tonight when I get home. I have guys that call me and say that to me. I'm driving home, man. I hope she's there. Wow. Wow. And I know people that I wonder if my husband's cheating on me. Wow. How would it be to live like that? And that's so sad, but that's because fear versus true, pure love. And that's where we got to get. And it's not about actually loving others. Miss Cynthia gave us actually the clue that we're going to talk about in the upcoming weeks here. But the truth is that if you forgive yourself, she talked about her mom learning to forgive herself. She had to have learned to forgive herself for any mistakes she made. I had to learn to forgive myself for my mistakes that I've made. And once you can forgive yourself and then actually love yourself, forgiving yourself and loving yourself, and to love yourself, you can't love 2/3 of Cece. You got to love 100% of Cece. She can't love 2/3 of JB. Nope, because with Rev comes the gangster movies and the thug life that I lived, and there's drama. It's all one package. I can't love part of her. Trust me, if you've ever driven with her, you'll know what I'm talking about. So what is it that truly overcomes fear? I believe that love. But as we said in the opening, the words fear, F-E-A-R, face everything and run. And that you have that option, and people do it all day. She sits with people daily who just run from their fears. They move to a new town. Oh, we'll just move to a new town. But the problems follow them there.
Or they do nothing at all.
And they just sit there in that fear.
And they wonder why their lives, they have nothing.
Health falling apart.
It's because they're doing nothing.
No one wants to be around them. No one wants to date them. No one wants in their family want to celebrate anything with them. But it's because they're living. They're living in fear.
They walk in fear.
And living is accepting it. Being fearful is just natural. Trust me, if you've ever sneaked up on me, man, I react pretty crazy. My poor wife, I've swung at my wife because I didn't know someone was there, and it shouldn't be someone there, and bang. And I'm like, thanking God, she's smart enough to get within like 5 feet and then yells, "It's me!" But that's fearful. But if you then walk around the rest of the day like that, that's living in it. You're allowing yourself to stay in that fear. And so you have to address the fear. Face everything and run is most people's choice. But face everything and rise is what I heard in Miss Cece's story tonight. She faced everything and rose. I know personally there was moments when she ran from fear. I've done it. So have you. But I know right now that most of you want to learn to rise above it. So as we close, I want to close with a scripture that actually tells us something the good Lord put in here in the book of Luke in the New Testament of the Bible. Chapter 12, verse 25 through 26, it says, "Who of you by worrying can add a single hour to your life?" I want to know right now, can you add 1 hour to your life? I've lost a child. So when I say what I'm about to say, I have all authority to say this. Your child's dying in the hospital. By you worrying about that child, is it going to save and give you 1 more minute of life? I can answer that. It doesn't add 1 ounce of extra time. When it's time, it's time. But by worrying about it, I actually do that child harm. I do my loved ones harm because I'm panicking. I'm worrying. Don't get Miss Cece started on the worrying, okay? Because I worry about a lot of things. And sometimes when stuff happens, I get worked up fast. And Miss Cece's like, "Whoa, you need to calm down. There's this stuff being released in your body that's this cortisol stuff, and it's going straight to your heart, and it's clogging it up more." And I'm like, "But I don't care. You don't understand." And she's like, "I know, I do actually, but I just need you to calm down." See, even I have those moments. And I do the same for her when there's times where she loses her stuff, and she's like, "What?" And I'm like, "Calm down, take it. Woosah. Let's go dance with the hula hoop. Let's go dance in the forest under the trees and get her a spirit of happiness, and then we can attack it." So you need people in your life like this. And that's what the scriptures is important that you hear this, what he's saying to us, because as we close it, it doesn't add a single to your life. Since you cannot do this very little thing, why do you worry about any of the rest of it? You can't, can you?
No. Do you ever hear birds chirping? It's because they're singing to God and telling him thank you. They're not worried. Chirp.
That's how we'll end. God bless, guys. Go chirp.